Well, in this video I have a Kingston, HMV Kingston, solid state, so at least it's not valve, and it's probably from the 60s or something. Open other end, Tasman. Oh, I wonder if that's a 73. That could be a 1973 box. A lot of these boxes are worth a look at. I know from beer boxes, beer bottle boxes and stuff, which I'll collect some of the old ones and save them. Sometimes that is the actual date they were made, so it's maybe not as old as I thought it was. It is solid state, so quite likely could be getting into the 70s, I guess. 3-piece stereo system, complete with box. Open this end, don't know what that said, but so it's a new old stock almost, but no, it's obviously been well used. The Silverfish have had a good go at this box, and it's basically a very budget sort of system, at least by modern standards. Certainly wasn't top of the end when it came out, but it's still a bit of a luxury to buy in those days. It says made in Australia, so we'll put it out of the box and see what we got. Yeah, a bit corroded. Probably got real metal coating on there, I guess. Some really cheapo speakers. They've actually got quite a large oval speaker in there by the look of it. That might be handy because I need one for an old valve TV here. So that may be all they're good for. They're actually in good condition. No instructions or anything. Hopefully no silverfish living in here. I don't want them in here. A bit of mouse poo by the look of it. And this was under the house of an old lady that died recently. I bought a few other old TVs and old beta machine and tapes and bits and pieces off them. Off her, I think it's a niece or something. And she contacted me about this, and I sort of reluctantly said, yeah, maybe I'll grab it, so it doesn't get tossed out type of thing. Even though it's not at all hi-fi, it's actually got 16 RPM and 78, so they were still around in those days. This front cover bit's all bent up and starting to come off. Have we still got a stylus here? It's one of the flip over ones, of course, because it's got LP stereo. That looks like, what does that say? 15. Oh, ST15, so it tells you what the sort it is. LPS. Oh, they're both, so this doesn't have a dual stylus. ST18, is that the same on that side? Oh, 15. Yes, an ST15 would be the replacement, and it's all bent to wherever. Can I get that out of there? I think you just, yeah, tilt it and pull it out. That's got a hell of a bend in it. I don't know if that'll come out on the camera, but that's a 45-degree bend, that one. I wonder if I can straighten it without snapping it off. You can probably still get these things, but the needle part's still there, I think. You just kind of got to grab the end. They're like a hollow aluminium tube is the problem. Without touching the actual stylus bit, and just straighten it. Looks a little dusty or something. Probably a bit dirty. A little rubber bit's pretty rubbery, but I think that's meant to be roughly like that. And that's unfortunately the problem with a lot of these things. Normally you check them before you buy them. I didn't even check. But often you find the stylus is bent or broken. Always something to check. Whoop, in she goes. Now it looks like it's sitting on a little bit of an angle. Yeah, she's not turning quite straight with the thing, I don't think. I just bend it and it'll be right. I think that's pretty good now. It just had twisted to one side a little bit. Not surprising when it's bent like that. But that's probably enough to actually get it going. Oh, they're stuck on well and truly. Got the old style shafts there. So that, I think, is just peeled up. What's on the back of it? It's some sort of cardboard like stuff. I don't think that is cardboard. It's that sort of insulation. I'm not sure what they call that stuff, but maybe I can sort of carefully bend it back into shape with a strong enough glue, like carpet glue or something. You could probably stick it down and force it down with something. But I think that's just failed from poor design or whatever, poor materials or something. Maybe a bit of excess heat got on it or something. You wouldn't think, it's not the sort of thing you think that would worry about sitting in the sun, especially if the plastic cover on the thing's still fine. I think most people knew to keep their turntables away from the sun because it would melt your records pretty quick otherwise. Well, I don't know if I really made a lot of difference. It felt like I did, but yeah, I think it's sitting a bit better. Pretty cheapo front panel really. These were really a kid's rumpus room type of thing. Maybe someone who really didn't care about their main stereo being particularly hi-fi. But they're kind of cool to see again. Most of these got thrown out in the 80s and stuff, just because they were old and replaced by like boom boxes and cassette players and stuff, or they were damaged. Not sure why you can keep the mains plug in there. It's actually a plastic. Is that so you can wrap it up inside here or something? Where does it come from? I don't think you can fit it under the cover, so that's a bit of a weird idea. But it's probably designed to do something like be wrapped up in here. Not sure about that. Is that the little, yeah, it's a little pop-up bit for the records with a big hole? I mean, they were basically, I think, mainly used in the jukeboxes. Solid state stereo, anyway, so replacement cartridge and stylus. Of course, they give a HMV number by the look of it, rather than you'd normally just go to your local Tandy or Dick Smith or one of the hi-fi store or something and get one. Oh, we've got a model number and stuff here. Is this safe to turn upside down? Hopefully it is. Oh, weird speaker connectors. Model OA-4R, I think. Serial 22159. Someone's just wrote them in with biro. Might be worth a look inside. There's only one screw holding it together, I think. We've got these old little flat connectors that are polarised with a pin on each side. Someone's had the screw out of it by the look of it. It's not really in place very well. Does that... Oh, how do you get it out? That slides, but there's a thing at each end. Oh, do you just maybe you pull it up and... Ooh, yeah, that might even be it. Is it that basic? Fantastic. Oh, we got a circuit. Wow. Yeah, it might even come off. Lovely masonite back. We've got some pretty old school transistors by the look of it. The old, that'll be interesting to see what there's got in it. BC149, AY6114, BC158, AY6115. Is that possibly a motor and transformer in one? Yeah, it looks like it might be. They also did that some flip clock radios where they'd put the transformer into the motor. Same having a second one. Someone's had the switch cover off, maybe, or it's just tipped over time. Those cords seem a bit too short for it to actually fit on there. So it's got a switch pot. What is it, an Aerostat? I think they were an Australian made, a Ducon. Another Australian made one, a horrible reefer capacitor by the look of it. Made in Australia. AEE or something. It's a mini print, so maybe Reefer weren't the only ones that made these style of caps in the epoxy. Oh yeah, there's our output transistors, these TO5 case metal ones. Oh, the other BCs are in metal cases. Oh, there's the old large kind of TO92 style plastic case in that sort of half a hexagon type shape, or maybe half an octagon actually. What are the caps? Elner's. And who made the transistors? A bit hard to tell. Another big Elner capacitor. Pretty standard in this stuff. Looks like it was actually made to have a speaker potentially shoved in the top of it. So this is almost like a case off a a chassis off a different model, I reckon. Well, you can see the just metal clips holding it in, so maybe this was a portable suitcase type unit as well. They probably made one with just another plastic half that went over this bit. A speaker, probably a mono amplifier in it if it's got one speaker. These controls may have been mounted somewhere else. Oh yeah, we've got a date. 6th of September 1973. So it is a 1973 model. I told you that box would probably be accurate to the date. Would have been made the same year. Yeah, interesting old thing. But again, very low end unit. For some reason we've got veneer on the inside. Oh, I guess because they had to have some of it showing on the outside. And nothing on the motor about who made it. Quite typical, these old circuit boards look like this. A lot of the Australian ones had blue like print there for where the track was on the other side. Is that a Fairchild or something? I think that might be a Fairchild. Well, there was another person with, yeah, it's got a big F on those transistors. Not sure that's Fairchild, or they usually made ICs, I think, but I'd have to look up all my manufacturers because I forget who half of them were. BC178's from, doesn't say, could be anyone. And BC148 doesn't say who made it. So a lot of these old transistors never had a manufacturer ID on them for some reason. Got some of these old yellow caps that were, I think they were actually Philips made them and did continue to make them. Do we have a market anywhere? No, but they were quite common in valve equipment. Oh yeah, it's even got 1973 on that capacitor. Didn't know they dated the caps. But yeah, that cap's got 1973 printed on it, so we know that's definitely the case anyway. And one of these old fluted mains cord. I used to have a soldering. I think my first soldering iron had probably a cord almost identical to this on it. Probably actually made in Australia. Doesn't say. Yeah, I remember that well. I think it was a Dick Smith soldering iron. Don't think I've really seen one of those cords since then. But let's plug it in. That's on. Probably need to plug the speakers in. Do we get any action out of this thing? I can hear something making a noise. Like a high pitched noise. I think the motor's running. Better check, I guess. Hinges are loose. It's one of those shafts with a spring thing on it. No, the motor is not spinning. Oh, that's why I'm sort of turning the power off. You should see this round bit here spinning, but when unless that was just the magnetic field, there it goes. Yeah, it's making a hell of a humming noise, and I could feel the vibration. So it was sitting right down. I think I just is that meant to? I don't think that's meant to sit where it is now. Well, at least it's running. Now we've got the idler running. It seemed to be sitting quite low. Now it's sitting about right. So maybe it just seized up. Oh yeah, we've got rotation and plenty of torque there. That's how slow a 16 is, wow. That's a bit clunky. And the 78 flying along. Unlikely many people, that's like a neutral. So you can turn it to, you can pause it basically. And definitely making a bit of a clunky noise, which is not the best. let's plug her in and see what she does. Yeah, they're actually quite a decent speaker in there, quite a large one. I forget what size they were. What does it say? 26th of September 1973. It is a EMI speaker, which makes sense because HMV in Australia were something tied up with EMI. I forget what the story is, but I think there was something to do. They were the same company all around, I think, possibly, but certainly in Australia, I'm pretty sure EMI Australia is who put out all the HMV televisions, possibly the Healings and stuff as well. But this would have actually probably sounded half decent, even though it's just a ceramic cartridge. At least it's got big speakers, which is surprising. Scratchy protocols. And do we have a... Well, I say we're a goer. Now I've got to find some vinyl. Should play a full-size record on this thing. Probably too fast by the sound of it, don't know. Yeah. I can never remember what speed half these things go at. That's the only problem. You can't adjust the speed with the record on it when it's a 12-incher. Mainly would have been for kids playing singles, I guess. Well, that's one of the worst frequency responses I've ever heard. Sounds actually quite a bit better when you turn the bass down, but that sounds terrible out of those speakers. Not sure if it's the speakers. I mean, ceramic cartridge is not exactly great. This record is certainly not in the best condition, but it should, besides being a bit scratchy and stuff, it should sound better than that. Could be that beaten up old stylus isn't the best. I guess one thing I can do is flip it over to the other side. See if we get any difference. It still sounds pretty terrible. Probably having the speakers sitting on top of junk here doesn't help. But they are pretty rubbish, most of the speakers that came with these things. I might hook it up. Whoops, can't even shut the lid with that on there. Might hook it up to my speakers here. What are they rated at, these, does it say? Guess I'll have to measure across. That ain't a good sign. I could probably run out low volume. Surprisingly loud, this thing, I must say. But most of them did put out a few watts of fairly lo-fi sound. Yeah, 26 ohms, so they're both the same. EMI Australia something. Unfortunately they're stapled together, these boxes. I could prise the back off one, I guess, but EMI 124, I think, maybe a model number or something. But you do risk blowing the output if you hook it up to something. I guess I could put a resistor in series or something. And the real question is, how do I even connect to it? Okay, let's try it with some 8 ohm speakers. Well, they're there. Well, it sounds substantially better, as in it's got some nice treble and stuff now, but kind of sounds out of phase, which is strange. The vocals and everything seem alright. Outputs aren't getting hot, are they? No, they seem to be coping alright. Could someone have fiddled with this? We've got a couple of earths coming back to the pot. So the volume basically just adjusts the input straight out of the ceramic, which was the idea of ceramic cartridge, is its high output, so you don't need a proper preamp or anything like that. I don't know if they even bother equalise it, I guess they must. Maybe that's what it is, poor equalisation. It's hard to tell if it's like phase out or the frequency's out or both. Got a resistor there, comes back. There's probably something in the preamp section to boost the bass and cut the treble or whatever they do. Because I think the bass they reduce to so they don't have to cut as large a groove or as much deviations in the groove or whatever, so it doesn't take up as much room on the record. So I think I've got to boost that back up. I mean, they were never great quality at all, and if they sounded as bad as this one did with the original speakers, I can see why most people threw them in the bin. I don't know why anyone kept this one, but this lady did tend to hoard a few things that she had, which was good because she saved a lot of stuff that otherwise would have got thrown out. I'll give that pot a clean. Basically should be able to just get in this. It's a stereo pot, so 2 sets of wipers on it, and watch that stuff just came back in my face when you're doing it on weird angles like that. At least we just got hum now rather than scratchiness. Both our channels still hooked up though, hopefully. Gotta get the lid out of the way, haven't I? I think I am down the channel. Well, I don't think I've ever heard Van Halen sound so bad. It's not utterly terrible. I think there is something weird in the frequency response curve on it. Is why it sounds kind of out of phase, but I think it's more like there's a dead spot in the frequency or something. Not quite sure what's going on there. But yeah, not a great system as expected. But surprisingly little wrong with it. Just a dirty pot, a motor that had seized up a bit. Who knows what position this thing sat in. It's like it had been upside down and the motor had dropped a bit and stuck there. Front panel peeling off, which almost could be glued back in place now. I don't think anyone's ever going to want to collect any of these sort of things. I guess it would kind of maybe look cool somewhere. Almost has a horrible melamine type finish on the front to go with the wood grain. Or I guess it's white across the whole top, so it probably is early melamine type finish. And that might explain why it's got those holes moulded in it, because it's for a different unit, I reckon. This plastic bit was obviously made to mount in something else. That could be what that's to do with. But anyway, I thought it was worth a quick look and worth saving. I did give her a few dollars for it, but she has got me some good stuff, so I want to stay in her good books anyway in case she uncovers any more interesting relics. So I think it was worth grabbing. And yeah, possibly it could be passed on to someone and get my money back on it. It's probably about the only hope. I kind of like these things just because they're so rare now. There were a lot of these around when I was a kid. It was part of my sort of childhood. I didn't actually have one, but knew people that did, and we used to see them lying around the place, and they're sort of thing you'd think, oh, can I nick some parts out of the amplifier or something? I probably did salvage a few of those old BC transistors, because they're the sort of things used in the Electronics Australia designs and Dick Smith kits and whatever. So I know I definitely had some of those old transistors. I kind of wish I didn't get rid of them now, but they were well and truly out of date even back then. That was more in the 80s, and they weren't exactly expensive to buy. And things like those output transistors could have been useful for something, but generally there were better flat pack ones and stuff by then. But yeah, it shows how kind of well built these things were. No idea if this has had much use, of course. I'll say they've got through at least one stylus, because I'm sure that's not the original, but maybe they just came out with that stylus and you could get the A78 if you really wanted it. Because people still, I mean, you still see it at the tip shop, great big boxes of 78s being sold. I bought a few of them just for the artworks on the sleeves, since they look very sort of, they look 20s or 30s, they're probably a bit later than that. But some of them do go back that far. But people still had collections. And yeah, listening to one of these again, I can remember, I was pretty sure they sounded pretty terrible. I think the main problem, or half the problem, was the actual speakers themselves, because I remember I used to grab a few of these old speakers from around the place. You'd have people chucking them out or whatever, and they were never much good for anything. Good for a test bench or something, and not even that hardly, but they just weren't worth keeping. A lot of the later ones, and these came in plastic cases and stuff. Like that AWA little turntable like this I pulled a bit, so I had these horrible plastic speakers with masonite backs and just the little 100mm speakers in there. I might even pull the back off one of these just to have a look. I'll be interested to see what the EMI thing is on there, but I don't know if I can get them off without damaging them. We'll put this back together. You've got to love their simplicity, just have the wires hanging out the back for the speakers. No need for expensive connectors or anything. Oh, and I guess I should get a scan. Is that going to come off? I'm going to take that out for now. I guess make sure this thing's actually on the Radio Museum or whatever. In case I haven't got it. Someone's probably already put it on there though. Ooh. I think that's all it's meant to do. I don't think you're meant to pull anything else off. It just sits at the front there, one screw. Don't know why someone didn't bother screwing that back in. Maybe I'm about to find out why. It's kind of lifting as it goes, but no, it does go in. Bigger screwdriver would be useful. So that goes together nicely. Needs a bit of a clean of the cover. Cover's not in too bad condition. Wouldn't be complete if I don't give it a little bit of a clean just to see what it comes up like. I'll say it's in fairly good condition, not too badly scratched. It's got a few marks, I hope they come off like something's been dripped onto it. Yeah, it's coming off slowly. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to think that something this primitive looking was the 70s. I always think things were getting a bit more modern then, but it was a pretty daggy looking era, to be honest. Things were pretty bland. I was never a fan of anything from the 70s much, but I mean, this was almost a colour TV era in Australia, and this thing looks like it's from 10 years before that era. I mean, maybe it's a hangover of earlier designs. I'd actually clean up rather well, but I'm definitely not a fan of the look of that era. Very sort of boring looking stuff. I guess it was just made to do the job and be a decent price for people. But yeah, this thing, I was pretty sure it was going to be 60s, looking at the way, the styling of it. Yeah, could do a pretty good clean, but the old melamine has survived nicely. So I don't think this thing's been in the sun much or anything. It's actually in pretty good condition with a bit of a clean up. Get the aluminium shining on the stylus again and the shaft on it. It's kind of sprung at the back. Pushes down and bounces up again. Yeah, it is on a spring, the back of this thing. Maybe it's a bit of anti-vibration and probably also to stop the kids breaking it. But yeah, there's nothing really damaged on it or worn on it. And I guess this bit is pretty much like the interior of a car of that era, with some fake plastic chrome and textured vinyl stuff. So that bit definitely looks rather 70s. Yeah, that'll probably, with a bit of work, would clean up rather nice, but it certainly looks a lot better with the dust taken off it. There's still a couple of patches I missed. Or stubborn stuff. So it would have been some kids' pride and joy back then. Getting anything on cassette was really still a pretty new thing in '73 still, even though it was invented about 10 years earlier than that. And of course, if you like getting hand-me-down records or whatever, the other problem with a cassette is back in '73 you would have had to buy everything on cassette probably and replace your music collection. So there wasn't much point, especially for a kid's rumpus or something. They'd just get the old singles handed to them probably. And I don't know if singles were cheaper on vinyl back then, they probably were. Cassette being fairly new. Yeah, that actually comes up surprisingly good. There is still a little bit of muck there that's not coming off, I think. May need a light polish or something. But yeah, a daggy sort of cheapo unit. Almost looks like it's got gaffer tape along there. I don't know if that's original or someone's added it. I think that is gaffer tape along there. So maybe something's pure. I reckon the original, maybe there was another chrome bit or something along here. Something maybe non-original there, but look at it, something's peeled off, I think. But yeah, surprisingly it's still working reasonably well. It's still in reasonable condition if that was glued down. Yeah, definitely a bit of an acquired taste, I think. And definitely only good for display purposes, because it's about as far from hi-fi as you can get. So I got the little bits cut in the back to wind it on. I think that's glued. Must be, yeah, the glue's breaking though. I don't think I'll try and open those up. Dead spiders that once lived on it or something. Oh, there's the rating. It is a 27 ohm, as we roughly knew. I do like the little EMI stickers. Manufactured by EMI Australia Limited, New South Wales. Sydney. Oh, Sydney, New South Wales. It's written around the other way. And it's got like an EMI picture of the globe in red with a big EMI, 3 big letters in red and yellow over the top of it. Yellow continents on a sort of crosshatch pattern. Don't think I can really show that, but oh, there it is. Don't know if that comes out very well, but yeah, maybe just. Put in that little cutout. That's the EMI label on the in the center of the magnet there. I do like some of those old artworks. I think we've got another date, 1972, 6 something 1972. The box was made. That's what's stamped on the bottom of it. And yeah, some bits of dead insects, a nice big cobweb. 27 ohms. The other one's probably out of the same batch of cheap chipboard speakers. Can't really read the other one. Oh, no, the other one's 1973, I think. So someone got ripped off because that's a bit out of date, that speaker. Whether they're definitely the original ones that came with it, who knows, but both those badges have corroded a bit. I think this was left in an old garage under a house. But yeah, some of the worst sounding speakers I've heard. They're probably alright in a television. That gives you an idea. Are they 6x9 or something they used to call these things? No, that was the car speakers, I think. What's 6 inches? That's more like a 400mm that way by 4x6 or something. Just over here, about 160 that way. I've got them hooked up to the CD player and stuff here, and they are definitely the worst sort of hollowed out sounding speakers I've ever heard, I think. Probably besides anything as old as these that I've listened to before anyway. But they are absolutely terrible. That one's got a bit of vibration in it too, so personally I would throw these things in the fire pretty much, because that's all they're good for. Absolutely horrible. Just shocking how bad they actually are. But I guess that's by modern standards. Again, as a rumpus room kind of thing, they would have done the job. For kids that probably didn't know any better anyway, but it really does sound terrible. Like a boombox sounds far superior to these things. They're that bad, and these are quite big speakers, so they are just very poor quality. Probably go well back into the 60s or something technology, and they sound absolutely terrible. More like car speakers or something that were designed for some tinny little AM mono radio or something. Just not meant to have any real quality at all. They just sort of, they don't even sound like they do a smooth mid-range. Does not sound like a flat frequency response at all. It kind of sounds hollow and tinny and horrible. So yeah, really bad quality speakers. Definitely do not recommend EMI made speakers. But I thought it'd be worth trying them just on an external source to make sure it wasn't something I was doing, or that I'd definitely hook the speakers up in phase and all that sort of thing. But the turntable definitely sounded better on some decent speakers. They're still far from anything quality. And these speakers here just halve the quality of the unit, I think. So it was capable of more than what it was actually performing. These speakers really let it down, but they were built to a price. So I guess you get what you pay for. So thanks for watching.